Hey guys, Tommy here. I want to get into this video very quickly and very fast. And the all-time question is, well, Tommy, at what age should I consider moving out from my parents' house? And the answer is, my name is Simon Bryson. I'm an accountant. I'm 22 years old. I make a little bit over $15,000 every single month, and I still live with my mom. By the way, my mom makes around $27,000 every single year. So what she makes, I make in around a month and a half or so, and I still haven't moved out my mom's house whatsoever. Okay, now that's not common. Most people, they live in a basement with their parents until like they're 40 or 50. I get that stereotype, but in reality, we're not all like that, okay? I make a decent amount of money every single month, and I'm working towards financial freedom. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly when is the perfect time to move out and why. Now, before we get to that, I want to ask you a question, okay? Now, here's a question. At what age do you think someone should consider moving out from their parents' house, okay? Comment down below and let me know. Now, don't wait until I respond here. Comment down below right now and let me know your answer in 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Now, here's my answer, guys. To me, it's not really an age, but more of a state of mind and a state of financial stability. So for example, you wouldn't have a kid at age 14 just because you can have a kid, and you shouldn't really move out at 18 just because you can move out once you're officially an adult, okay? So my main thing is you want to be prepared to actually move out when it comes to financial stability, so you don't go out there and become financially ruined by having credit card debt, student loan debt, and next thing you know, you live in an apartment, a crappy apartment with a crappy job, and now you're stuck and you don't know what to do. So the concept is, it's not really about an age, but more about a state of financial being, and that way you can move out safely without having to worry about like, hey, what am I gonna do now? I wish I never moved out, and you probably shouldn't have moved out. So in this video, I'm going to break down all those little concepts to make sure you guys understand exactly the cost of moving out, the pros, and also the cons. Now, let's get into it right now. Now, the first thing I really want to break down is all about, the why people actually want to go out their way and move out as soon as possible at 18, 19, 16, 17. I heard it all. I heard about people that move out at age like 15 or so, which is crazy to me. But basically, guys, I started the feeling and the idea of moving out when I was 10 years old, when my mom told me, hey, Tommy, this is my house. I pay the bills here. If you want to go, you can go, but you will not set the rules for me. Now, if you don't know, I was around age 10 at the time. And I said, you know what? I think I hacked it. I know what to do. If this is her house, she makes the rule. Well, it means that if I get my own house, then I set the rules. And that was basically my idea of why I wanted to move out at age 10 from my mom's house, okay? It sounds ridiculous, but it is true. And that followed me around until I was age 18 or so. When the actual time came through, I was like, you know what, should I move out? And I was like, you know what, maybe I'm going to wait just a little longer, okay? Now, let's be honest and let's be serious here, okay? The main reason people often want to move out is because of one thing, and it's all about independence. And independence to me is a little bit overrated because you think that independence is probably independence, not independence, okay? You probably think that independence is all about, you know what, I'm free, I can stand on both my feet, but most of the time, you're standing on credit card debt, student loan debt, and every type of debt out there, and you're basically scraping by, so you're not really standing, you're more like barely standing, and that's the main reason I don't really recommend you move out so early. Now, I want to talk about what people do to actually move out, okay? The first thing is, guys, that, people, whenever they reach 18, they say, you know what? I want to branch out. I want independence, so I'm going to go to room and board, and I'm going to move away to college around 16 to 100 miles away from my parents, and that way I can get the college experience, and I can become something called independence, a man, a woman. I can be that person because I myself am powerful. I am Iron Man. Well, wrong video here, okay? But the problem is with this idea is that, you know what? You go out there and you room and board, and now you are independent, and then you graduate, you probably can't find a job because sometimes it's probably like that. Now, if you pick the wrong career, by the way, usually you can find a job if you pick the right career, but more than often, people graduate with a career in horse psychology and they can't find a job. Now, the main issue is, guys, that once you graduate, usually, now you have to worry about student loan debt, credit card debt, and a whole bunch of other factors like rent and bills, which I will break down later on in the cons of this video when it comes to the cons of actually moving out. Now, I want to mention the second thing here, guys, okay? And it's all about, when you move out and you're not even going to college, you might say, like, you know what, I'm going to take the entire, like, leap. I'm going to get a crappy apartment, a crappy job that pays me minimum wage, and once I have that, I'll figure things out as I go along. Now, you quickly find out that that means that you have an apartment, so now you have bills, and you also have a crappy job, meaning that you don't really have the amount of money you actually need to thrive, but only the amount of money you need to actually stand by. So it doesn't really help you whatsoever to do this, so I don't recommend you get a crappy apartment, you move away to college like 100 miles away, and on top of that, lastly, I don't recommend you justify it by saying like, hey, you know what? I have to do this because this is how I get financial independence, and this is how I become independent myself, and this is how I become a woman, a man, whatever you are, okay? It doesn't really make sense, and most often, it's all about justifying this yourself, because all you really want to do is have your own place, call it your own home, and be independent more. It's more like an ego thing than it is a real necessity thing. You know, most of the time you just want to swipe right on Tinder and be like, you know what? I don't have to worry about my mom or my dad being at home. I'd be like, you know what? I'm good to go. No. Now, I want to say something else, guys, okay? Now, here it is. Most of the time, in America, people want to move out when they're 18 and sometimes even younger when they go to college. And then once they go to college, they go straight into a crappy apartment or a crappy house and they can't really afford because the mortgage is way too high, even if you graduate with a very high-paying job, okay? Now, in third world countries, more than often, kids only move out once they have an education, a job, and also are stable enough to actually buy a home. And I see this myself because most of my cousins in third world countries, they do this all the time. And the people that break this system, well, they end up having to get into credit card debt, student loan debt, and personal debt, and also car loan debt. And before they know, they are independently chained by debt all over them. Now, I'm not saying not to move out because I'll break that down and the pros later on in the video. But for right now, I really want to zone in on the why people want to move out and the reason why it doesn't really make that much sense. Now, let's go into the cons, okay, and the cost of actually moving out. Now, the main cost of moving out, well, you know what it is already, right? Is that now you have bills to pay because now your parents aren't helping you or they're not doing anything for you whatsoever at this point. Unless you're getting like a stipend or they're helping you with money and cash here and there, well, at which point you're not really independent anymore. They're still like feeding you and helping you in some way, so that's not really called like moving out in a sense. So now, once you move out, you have to think about bills. And by bills, I mean, you know, we're talking about rent, utilities, and also on top of that, food. Rent, utilities, and food. The main three factors of surviving in the United States or anywhere in the world to save. Okay, now, if you live in New York, rent will cost you between $500 for a room all the way up to $1,200 for an apartment, depending if you're moving into the Bronx or Brooklyn. But if you want to go to Manhattan, that will cost you a ton of money, okay? Now, on top of utilities, cost the average person between $115 to $200. And by the way, utilities, I mean water, light, cable, and all that fancy stuff. Not Netflix, stuff like that. You don't really need that stuff. I'm talking about like regular utilities, $115 to $200 every single month. On top of that, food will cost you between $300 to $400 every single month. Now, most of the time, it'll probably cost you more because my friends that move out, usually they can't cook. So whenever they move out, it'll cost them like $20 to actually cook, well, buy food out every single day, or like $15 and $15, and you eat every single day because, you know, you can't survive without eating. Well, that costs you around $450 every single month to actually buy and eat food outside, usually. Now, what is the main problem with this, guys? You know, if we do some estimates here, if you're paying maybe, let's say, $750 for rent, okay? I want to be like, you know, very, very frugal with these estimates, okay? And on top of that, you're paying, let's say, $20 for utilities because, you know, you need internet in the house, you need cable, all this fancy stuff, and, you know, that's pretty fair. And also the light bill, the water bill, and also heat dependent on your landowner. So let's also say that you're going to be paying between $300 to $400 for food. So let's make it $400, okay? That means that every single month, you'll be paying around $1,350. Tommy, that's not that much money. I make that in 2 weeks or 1 week. That is awesome, okay? I'm fine with that. I'm good to go, bro. I don't need you to tell me anything. Well, the answer is this. When we talk about the cons, not the cost of moving out, the con is that you don't have enough money to actually invest anymore. So this money right here, times 12, actually adds up to around $16,200 you can actually invest instead of having that money go into expenses. For example, let me explain here, okay? Divided by 12 all over again. It means that if you're making $1,350 and you're earning the average minimum wage in the US, which is around $7.25, well, it means that this money to actually make just for bills, well, it'll actually cost you, well, let's say 28. It'll actually cost you around 185 hours of your time every single month to actually be able to pay for your bills. Now, divided by 4, that means that's around 46 hours. If you're getting paid minimum wage of around $7.25 every single hour. Now, if we go crazy and we say $13.50 and you're working in New York, for example, getting paid $15 an hour, well, divided by 15, well, that's only $9 an hour every single month, but that's still a lot of time if you ask me. Divided by 4, well, that's around 22 hours of your time going straight to bills and only bills. Now, if you grab this money and you invested it, instead of putting it towards your bills, well, I have good news and no bad news, to be honest, okay, because investing is always good news. Well, so if you put this money, this $13.50 times 12, which is around $60,000 every single year. If you put this money in the market, in ETFs, that's what I do. I invest with Acorn, link down below if you want to know how I do it and how I make money on Acorns by investing into ETFs in the market, and I make around 7 to 10% every single year. Well, if we do 10%, if you grow your money by 10% every single year by investing it, well, that's around $16.20 every single year. So that means that your money grows by an average of, let's say, $135 every single year. Not that bad at all. On top of that, if you are making, again, $16K, you're saving that money up instead of spending it. Well, if you're making that money in dividends, because I calculated it, I get an average of 2.37%, like 2.35% for dividends. Well, that means that you will be making in dividends only around 2.35. Well, you'll be making around $376 in dividends every single year. Again, it might not sound like a lot of money, but in reality, it actually is. Now, the last equation I want to do for you guys here before your head hurts from doing all this math here is that if you're saving up $16,000 every single year, look at this, guys, right? Whenever you buy a property for real estate, you can do a down payment of 3.5% if you're going to live in the property. That means that if you're putting down 3.5%, this money right here, this savings you're not going to be spending on bills, will actually give you the ability, because we're going to divide this by 3.5 and we're going to times it by 100. Well, this gives me the amount of money I can actually purchase a house for, well, the mortgage in a sense, or the cost of the house, of $457,000. I can buy a house of this price by putting down a down payment of 3.5. You don't believe me? We times it by 0.035. That's around $16,000. So by saving this money, you can invest into real estate and create more income for yourself. By the way, $16K, and if you live with your parents for 5 years instead of moving out ASAP, well, that's around $80,000 by the time you move out. $80,000 is not that bad at all, guys. And most people in America, they don't even have $1,000 saved up in their bank accounts, okay? More than 60% of Americans don't have $1,000 in their bank account for savings. So already, you're already around 80 times higher or advanced than all those people. On top of that, you know, that's not the only con here. By the way, guys, okay, if you wait 5 years to actually move out and you do this correctly when you're 18 or whatever, well, guess what? That means that you're going to move at around 23 years old with 80K. And also, you should be investing the money while you're doing the whole stuff. So you're going to move out with investments, which is really cool if you ask me. On top of that, once you move out, the main con is that you have no failure proof. So for example, you can't go out there and take so much risk, because at some point, if you take the risk, you might go homeless, okay? But when you're living with your parents, you don't really have that much risk, because if you fail, you fail, but you're still there with your parents. You can just like live there and try again over and over again. Now, you don't really have real freedom, because once you move out, well, the main thing is that the con is that you do have debt, you do have crazy bills, and on top of that, you don't have the ability to actually earn more income, because more than often, you'll be too busy trying to pay those bills, and you won't have the ability and the time to actually go out there and try to get a degree. And if you do, that is awesome. Get it done. No excuses here, okay? Now, I want to talk about the pros and the benefits of actually moving out, and here we go. And the main pro is that, hey, you know, you have more on the line, so it's more risk, and you're kind of playing on the entire like hard level of life, because if you mess up, you might go homeless, and that might be the equivalent of you having to be in a shelter for a while. And that's pretty cool, you know. It's kind of how it works. You're in the jungle, you made that choice, but again, you don't have to if you don't have to, okay? Why would you if you don't have to? Now, you're also going to be independent. So 100% of all your decisions will be on you and only on you, not your parents. No excuses here. So the pro is that you get independence, you get the ability to actually like put everything on the line. But the main thing is that you don't have to do this, because you can get all the results by just staying with your parents for a longer time and actually just saving up your money and eventually moving out when you're actually financially stable. Now, the last thing before I go, because I'm running out of time here, guys, is that, you know, if you ask me, Tommy, what's the perfect time to actually move out? The answer is there's no perfect time. The answer is you want to move out when you're financially stable, and you want to make sure by the time you move out, you have these three things. And I'm going to say them right here, guys. You want to make sure you have passive income coming in. You also want to make sure you have a solid mainstream of income, like a normal job that makes you a lot of money, or a business. And on top of it, you also want to make sure you have the ability to actually buy property. Because once you have 2 years of employments and money's coming in, you can actually go to the bank and take those documents in, and you can actually get a mortgage. Once you have all those things, all those factors right there, you can actually move out. Now, for me, if you want to watch a video on exactly what I'm waiting for to actually move out, comment down below and let me know, and I'll get to work ASAP. And as always, guys, if you guys enjoy this video right here, do me a favor and smash the like button. Lightly, though. Don't crush it, okay? If you want to, you can crush it. None of my business here, okay? Turn that from white to blue. Do whatever you got to do, okay? Like the video, really appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you get notified, and do me a favor, if you want to talk to me one-on-one, uno, just DM me on Instagram at Tommy Bryson. And on top of that, if you want to watch a video on how I save around 95% of all my income, well, watch this video right here. And if you want to hit my face right here, you'll just subscribe to the channel right now. I'll see you guys tomorrow, as always, and peace.